Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back. The Radley Cordless Rotary Tool / Dremel. Alright, so we went out to North Bay yesterday for a few things. One of which was to get me a new Dremel because this little guy had seemed to have finally packed it in. Last time I used this was about a week ago. And of course, living in the country, we do experience power outages. However, this thing's been plugged in for several years now in the house since I bought it. And I've never unplugged it. I've always left it on the charger. This way it's always ready to go whenever I need it. And I've never once had a problem with this thing, okay? So I go to take this out yesterday, I guess. Day before yesterday. And I was going to use it because I've been cutting arrow shafts with this. I've been breaking arrows, or I've been getting arrows that are too short, stripping them down, cutting them, turning them into, well, we call them arrow pens. So basically you take an arrow that's still got some fletches on it that looks good, you know, and you shorten it up and you turn it into a writing tool. Anyways, they're fun. I've built quite a few of these things. And but I'm also trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the other sections of the shafts, but I need to be able to cut them and cut them clean. And a Dremel can do that with one of those fiber cutoff discs, and I got tons of these things, but this thing wouldn't fire up. And I'm like, what? Put it back on the stand, because every time you put this on the stand, whether you fired it up or not, like if you take it off and just put it back on, at least for a moment, if the battery is charged, it'll start to run the lights as if it's trying to charge, and it'll say, it's charged, and leave it alone. It wouldn't even do that. So I took apart the base, I checked out the base, I figured, well, maybe we got some bad solder joints, so I resoldered all those, and I didn't even really notice much about the board other than that there is some kind of a conversion circuit on there to take it from 12 volts, because the power supply is a 12 volt power supply, and it converts it to the necessary voltage to bring this up. It's a 7.2 volt lithium ion that's in here, or LiPo battery, lithium polymer, whatever. Anyways, fully charged, it's 8.4 volts, okay? So it's a beautiful tool, and they're not cheap to buy brand new. I got this for like 60 bucks at a pawn shop, and it was already who knows how old. Anyways, it wouldn't work. So I tried everything, and I tried rebending the prongs, you name it, just to make contact. Maybe it was a contact issue. Nothing. So I said, screw this, and I unplugged it, threw everything into a box because I was going to just, you know, take it to the hazardous place. And I go out and I buy this, okay? Now the story gets better. This is normally $43.99 at Home Hardware. Okay, I live in Canada, so Home Hardware. They carry this, because I did look at Amazon and I didn't like the reviews that I saw on many of these things, and a lot of them had just a USB port. This actually comes with a proper charger block, and just plug it into the bottom and away you go, and you'll see a red light, and when it turns green, it's fully charged. And do not under any circumstances fire this thing up out of the box before fully charging it, because otherwise apparently you'll screw up the battery, which I could understand that because they're in storage mode originally, and you know, whatever, okay? Anyways, and you can leave this plugged in all the time too when you're not using it, so that it's always fresh, because the batteries do, you know, over time just sitting, they lose milliamps, and then once it reaches to a certain stage, it'll just automatically top it back up, and then it's green again. So hey, when you look at it, it's green. Hey, it's charged. Unplug it and use it. Never try using these things, by the way, when they're still plugged in, because it's not going to work out for you. It doesn't work properly, we'll say that, okay? Now, it does come with a kit of bits. You get like a sanding drum, you get some polishing felts, a couple of sanding discs. You also get a couple other little tools in here for grinding purposes, and diamond cutters, that sort of thing. And you get a little wrench too. So quite the neat little package for $43.99. They are on sale right now at Home Hardware for $20. Now even Amazon couldn't compete with that, right? So I thought, well, for 20 bucks, whatever. So we talked to our girl there that we know very well, and I said, you know, is this thing a piece of garbage or what? Because it's low-end stuff, because they do carry everything from bottom of the barrel to right on up at Home Hardware, to a certain point, obviously. It is Home Hardware. So I'd never heard of Radley brand before, and she's like, well, honestly, buy the plug-in, it's going to be way better, because that thing is for light duty. I said, well, that's pretty much about what I'm doing is light duty anyways. And it does go to 25,000 RPM, so 5,000 to 25,000 in stages. So let's fire this little puppy up, and oh yeah, it's got some lights too. So there's 5,000, and I'll just take it a stage at a time till we get to the max. The noise level is not bad. That's all the noise you're going to get out of it. Not too shabby. Turn it off, turn it back on, automatically defaults to 5,000 RPM. Now I will say this, for cutting arrow shafts, you're going to have to take your time, go slow, and at about 20,000 RPM, that's going to be about your best bet, or just crank it right to the hilt and just, okay, just take your time with it. Don't try and force the cutter in, or you're going to stall it out, which I have the same issue with the Dremel brand Dremel one. It's the same thing, right? This one here is an 8-volt version, so it's got 2 batteries in it that give it the voltage. Basically, it charges up to 8.4 volts or whatever, or 8.8, whatever, whenever it's charged, fully charged. Okay, there's base voltage, and then there's charged voltage. Okay, and charged voltage is always your higher end, and then as soon as you turn it on and put it under a load, it hits the 8-volt range, and then, you know, and as you're going, the battery wears down. You get the idea. Anyways, a little bit of basic electronics for you. So it's a nice little kit for the money, especially for 20 bucks. You're not going to go wrong. It does have a 1-year warranty, and if nothing happens within the first 30 days, that's fine. If something does happen within that year, you can still take it back to Home Hardware. They'll ship it out, or they'll just replace it over the counter, one of the two. Okay, now every Home Hardware will treat you differently, okay? So who knows? But anyways, I don't know what their policies are. Just, this is what we were told for our store. Every store may treat things differently. So anyway, I thought, okay, that's great. That's fantastic. Now, we did also get the powered version as well, and a snake. That's going to be covered in another video, because I tried to do all this in one big video, and it was 31 minutes, and we figured, no, we're not doing this. And we did testing as well. So I'm going to tell you what the results were, okay? The results in cutting carbon fiber arrows, for trimming them down at least. Now, I wouldn't suggest cutting down arrows to make your own arrows, unless you're going to allow an extra maybe 1/8 of an inch from where you're supposed to cut, and then you can just dial it in on a disc sander to get it perfect 90 degrees when your cut is done. That you could do, and a Dremel would save you over buying a big behemoth machine. So you can do that with this. That is something you can definitely do, and do it very skillfully, and have very perfect results in the end. But you will then also need a disc sander or some sort of a sander to make sure you come right to that line of your length of arrow that you want to do, and just make it 90-degree perfect. Now, this is going to be also great for doing polishing of a lot of items. It's going to be good for doing some engraving stuff, all kinds of purposes for Dremels, okay? And I don't care that it's not the Dremel brand Dremel. It's still, it's a rotary tool, but it's also Dremel based, because that's the name and what it's about, right? So anyways, that's the idea. But at $43.99, I would have paid that for this, to avoid going to Amazon and maybe getting something that is nothing but a pain in the butt, and it's going to take me a lot longer to deal with, for getting my money back, etc., etc. And this was already there, and you know, it's dealing locally, which I have nothing against Amazon. I buy a ton of stuff off Amazon, but I also need to help shop local as well, right? Got to keep everybody else in business, right? And I thought, for $20 on sale, that's 50% off. You know, can't be that bad. you know, and you know what? So far, it's doing really well. So my initial review of this thing, because it will require an update, so will the other one, but my initial review on this, especially because it's cordless, I want to see what it's like over time, because I know my Dremel one overall is a great little machine, and I've had amazing results with it, a lot of great use, but no cordless version is going to be for heavy applications. For light to maybe a bit of mid-level stuff for whatever you're going to do for project-wise, yeah, they can handle it just fine, okay? But nothing heavy duty with any kind of a rechargeable Dremel. They're just not up for that kind of tasking, okay? So, and I like it because it's also lightweight, and it's very similar to the other one where, you know, I can, you know, sit here and do engraving or whatever, and, you know, I love the freedom of not having to deal with cords, okay? Corded Dremels are great for heavy-duty projects and some light stuff. However, this is great if you're doing light to medium level stuff and you just want that freedom away from the frigging cord and the extra bulk too, right? Because they're heavy and they're bigger and, you know, because they plug into the wall, right? So these are pretty ideal. So for 20 bucks, I would get it while they're still 20 bucks. Because then you can get two for the price of one and still save $4, you know what I mean? But otherwise, I mean, if you had to pay $43, I would say initially at this point in the game, I did torture this quite a bit yesterday on a bunch of arrows and for cutting through that stuff, and it does take horsepower to cut, right? That's the thing, and the bigger the disc for the cutting wheel you go with, of course, it's going to require that much more horsepower out of this thing. Now the end result is the best performance on this for cutting through the arrows with quickly, because you don't want to overheat the arrow material because it is carbon fiber. I went to 25,000 RPM and that zipped through the arrow much quicker, okay? Worked fantastic for me. And, you know, I've even used my other one, which is basically the same power level, and speed-wise, I think I get a little bit more speed out of the other one. But anyways, I've used these things for a lot of tasks, and they work really well for everything so far that I've used them for. But I just don't recommend any of these cordless jobbies for trying to do anything heavy duty, okay? I mean, if you keep stalling even at a high speed, you probably should go to a powered version and save this for the lesser tasks that don't require as much, you know, get up and go kind of thing, right? But if you also learn to take lighter movements, take a little bit more time, these could still do a lot of tasks either way that they're technically not made for, but they'll still do it. You just got to take that much more time. So up to you on that one, but I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5 solid, okay? Right now. That rating may change, but I want to wait until I've got a lot of use on it and we'll see how well it's holding up and how many issues I run into, what kind of projects I'm going to do other than cutting arrows with this thing. I want to see what else this particular model can do, because just because the voltages are up there and it does have speed, it's all about the torque in the end too. How often is this thing going to stall out on me on a project, and can I deal with that? So right now I will say 4 out of 5, hands down, no problem. And go pick one up if you want to, or you can wait 6 months for, you know, or whenever my update review is going to happen, which I don't know. So, but in the meantime, I think it is a great purchase, and I would definitely take this at my local home hardware over any of the Amazon ones so far that I've seen in the same price point, okay? Look toward more expensive ones on Amazon if you want something that might be better, but read all the reviews. Check out the 1, 2s, and 3s first on Amazon. Take some of that stuff with a grain of salt, because there are a lot of people who have no idea what they're talking about or doing. And then look at the 4 and 5-star reviews, even though I don't recommend 5 stars. But look anyways and see what the overall is for that particular product. Otherwise, give this one a shot. I mean, I did, and so far I quite like it. So anyway, before we go, this thing jumped back to life yesterday. Just for giggles, I plugged it back in, and it works again. I was a little disappointed there, but I'm thinking there's a thermal resistor in the charger station, in the actual stand, that kicked in, because we had a couple power outages the other day. Why the battery died so fast, I don't know. Maybe the battery's just getting aged. So, but it came back to life. It took about 4 or 5 hours from like flatline dead to recharge that, and I'm like, that's getting a little warm. Is this thing gonna blow up? And it didn't. It was fine. It was flatline dead. And so this is the charge block station for it that I resoldered the board on and everything, and that still hadn't immediately worked. And but after sitting for 24 hours, somehow magically everything came back to life. And so do I need this now? Well, yeah, because I don't trust that thing, okay, at this point. And besides, it never hurts to have a backup either way. But I am going to be putting this through its paces to make sure it's going to stay functional. But I think I'm going to start practicing not having that thing, or even this one, plugged into the wall all the time in case of a power outage. Because, yeah, there's no thermal resistor that can deal with this in here. And not all, what do you call it, power bars have a fast enough switch over to save your appliance that's plugged into it in the case of a lightning strike. Now, we didn't get lightning hit the house or anything, but we did have the power outages, and every time you get a power outage, it spikes the system. And yeah, I guess this time it finally had enough, and it finally spiked the thermal resistor in there, and it stayed swelled up because I also had left it plugged in. And so there's power still going into the board, which means, well, that thermal resistor is out, so that it breaks contact as a safety measure. It's not going to come back down until you unplug it from the wall, which it turns out it took about 24 hours for that to happen, of leaving it unplugged from the wall, and the stupid thing came right back to life. Me and my wife both shook our heads yesterday going, well, you know, you don't know these things, right? You wouldn't think that Dremel was even smart enough to put that little circuit, and I didn't even see anything on that board that would even represent that. So it's got to be built into the controller chip that alters the voltage. It's the only thing I can think of, because I didn't see anything on the board, because there's really not much of anything there, right? And it's like, I don't know, doesn't look like anything, and nothing looked cooked, so hey, you know, I don't know. But that's back to running, but for how long, we'll see. My first test with this, now that it is running, is I'm going to leave this off the charger for a couple of days and see if it just dies. And that'll tell me if the battery is actually gone or not, because as long as it's on the charger, it stays peaked, and it will run for quite a while. So now, if the lithium battery in this dies after just sitting for a few days doing nothing and not on the charger, then I know my battery is definitely done for in this, in which case, either way, it's a win-win. It's the way I look at it in the end. But anyways, we're out of here because this is 18 minutes for you guys. So, but I wanted to make sure you guys knew what was going on with that Dremel one too in the end. So, in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned. We are going to talk about the other goodies as well in other videos. So, see ya.